What if every human being on this planet was a part of yourself? What if every living creature on this planet was a part of yourself? Do you know how when you're in a city walking on the sidewalk, you have a certain perspective of the city? But if you go into a building and you take the elevator to the top floor and then you look out the window at the city, you've got a different perspective. From the top of the skyscraper, you're seeing a much bigger part of the city. Not the whole thing, but you're seeing more of it. And then if you were in a plane up in the air looking down at the city, you'd see the whole city. And if you were even higher than that, if you were in a spaceship orbiting the Earth, you would see not just the whole city, you'd see the whole planet as a single thing. Not a part, but as a whole. That very same thing happens in consciousness. When our consciousness is looking out of the eyes of a human body, we see just a part of things. And so everything looks like a part. We see other people, and from the perspective of our body, their body looks separate. But if we raise our consciousness up to a perspective that's further back and looking at the whole, there's an experience that happens where we don't see things broken into parts. We see everything is made of the one same thing. What if you don't have any enemies right now? Not really. Because right now, things, especially in America, are so contentious and divided, and we're being triggered into fear and hatred and anger just relentlessly right now. And I'm not saying there aren't real problems that we need to solve, but I want to ask you, from what position in the hierarchy of consciousness are we the most empowered to solve those problems? What if every human being on this planet right now is really yourself? And what if you have no enemies? Not really. Recently, I've been studying a therapy framework called internal family systems. And what we do in internal family systems, or IFS, is we look inside of our own psyche, our own psychology, and we see that there are different parts to us. There's the part, like if someone says, hey, do you want a slice of chocolate cake? There's a part of us that goes, yeah, I want chocolate cake. And then there's another part that kind of goes, should I have chocolate cake? So there's like two parts of us, right? There's actually many more than two parts. And in IFS, they also talk about the self that's within us. There's a part of us, a part of our psyche, that never gets wounded. There's other parts of us that can carry trauma, but that self part of us that they talk about never really gets wounded. And it always remains calm and loving and connected. It always remains the friend of the little individual parts in our psyche. It never turns its back on those individual parts. It never makes an individual part an enemy, even if an individual part is acting out because it's confused and wounded. And just like a dog who gets hit by a car and is then surrounded by strangers trying to help it, it's confused and wounded, and it will bite the hand that reaches out to comfort it. But our self in IFS, in the internal family systems, our self doesn't get confused like that. It's always a friend, a loving, unifying principle that unifies all the different individual parts of our psyche and wants to help them all. And when they're working in unison, when they're all closely connected, then we have mental health. But if they're all divided and isolated and at war with each other, then we have chaos inside. And we call that mental illness. Guys, this is what's happening in our country right now. It's exactly what's happening in our country right now. We are all divided and in chaos, fighting each other and hating and fearing each other. And just like when that happens in an individual human, it makes their life fall apart and they can't hold a job and people start to pull away from them and they become more and more isolated and they end up taking drugs that maybe make things even more confusing. Just like it happens in an individual, it happens to a group of individuals, like a country. From the highest perspective in this universe, there is also a self. Just like there's a self in us that unifies all the different parts, there's also a self in the universe that unifies all the different individual beings in the universe, me and you and the cat and the fish and the all Americans of every color and creed and gender. There is a self that unifies all of them and that looks at every one of those individual beings as part of itself. It doesn't see division. When it looks and sees beings, it sees itself in the shape of that being. Just like in IFS, we look inside and we see ourselves in the form of this part and that part, the one who wants the cake, the one who doesn't want the cake. That perspective, which we could call the God perspective, the unified perspective, that's inside of us. We actually have that perspective if we go further enough back behind our personality, behind our body identity. If we go further back, we'll find a level in our own consciousness. It's not a separate consciousness. It's in our consciousness. There is that perspective of the self that holds all beings as itself. That part of us is the most important part of us. It is where love comes from. It is where true intelligence comes from. True healing, true order, like the order that sets things aright, that brings harmony and balance to systems. That kind of harmony and balance comes from that true self in us. It is pure goodness, pure compassion. It's compassion that doesn't try to be compassionate. We try to be compassionate when we've erected walls. And then we try to get rid of the walls so we can be compassionate. This unifying self, it doesn't have walls to begin with. So it doesn't have to try to be compassionate. It is just pure compassion, endlessly, without even trying. Guys, we are being, how do I say this? When we see enemies in other beings, other human beings, especially right now, then what we're doing is we're turning our back on that self in us, the bigger self, that not only holds all of our individual psychological parts, but it holds all beings as parts of itself. When we're hating and attacking and judging other people, we are literally turning our back on the greatest part of us, the best part of us, and the part that could actually solve the problems in our society. Solving the problems in our society can only come from this loving, unified vision that is alive. It's not just a vision. It's not just a concept. It is alive. It is our consciousness. If we take a step back into what is before our personality squabbling, trying to preserve its life, which will never actually work because death is certain for this body and for part of our personality that identifies with this body. that will pass, but our self behind it does not pass. It just loves and blesses whatever it looks at, whatever it touches. If we want a society that takes care of everybody, we have to start by us being in touch with this loving kindness and compassion for all beings, no matter how wounded and no matter if they're biting our hand or not. We can still defend ourselves. We can still have strong boundaries. It doesn't mean we become weak and we lay down and expose our belly to a murderer. No, we can still fight for what is right, but we're fighting with love. And fighting with love is so much more intelligent than when we're fighting with hate. Hate, even psychologists will tell you in studies they have found that when we're in an angry, hateful space, our IQ drops, our ability to discern friend from foe becomes severely impaired. We lose our ability to be effective at bringing order and balance and harmony and peace to a chaotic situation. All we end up doing is contributing to the chaos if we're coming from hate and anger. Guys, we all know this deep down, but we're getting messages that are convincing us to turn away from this wisdom that we were born with and has never left us, but we can leave it. It never leaves us, that self behind our mind. It never, ever leaves us, but we can turn away from it and forget it. And then we just create suffering in the world. So if you want to help our country right now, I implore you, come back to yourself. The self that loves all beings, that understands the suffering in our enemies and loves them. I'm not a Christian, but I have a lot of respect for a lot of Christianity, and there's something that I really respect, and that is the story of Jesus on the cross. The soldiers are jabbing him with spears, and he prays to God saying, God, forgive them. They know not what they do. That wasn't a man saying that. That was the self. Remember yourself. And I will keep working to remember myself. It's really important. Many, many beings, many parts of you depend on it.